करूँ छू दाद कर विनंती तुझ पास, एक जरज मारी पूरी कर तू आज। निखालिस जिगरती जोड़ी बेऊ हाथो, मांगू छू मदद तारी ओ दादार। मारी मुश्किली आसान तू कर, जिन दुखो थी बचावानु एहसान तू कर। पापने गुना थी मने बचाव, जिन आबरू ने इज्जत थी मने दी पाप। करूँ छू ओ दादगर विनंती तुझ पास, एक जरज मारी पूरी कर तू आज। નથી જોઈતો લાખો હજારો નો હાર મને, નથી જોઈતો સુના રૂપાનો સંગાર। માંગુ છું ઓ માલિક સુખવાસી ઘર બારને, રોજી રજક સાથે શાંતિનો પ્યાર। ધન દોલત ને હું ચાહતી નથી ને, કિંમતી ખજાનું भी मांगती નથી। हेतवान तो लायक भोलो भरधारने, आखर तेना प्यार साथनो सुखी संसार। करूँ छू ओ दादगर विनंती तुझ पास, एक जरज मारी पूरी कर तू आज। मात पिता साथे आबा तू राखजे ने, भाई बहनों साथे खुशाल तू राख। सुख जेवा संपत्ति सुखियारा राखजे ने, सोहोवा संसंगारे भरी पूरी राख। निखालिस जिगरती जोड़ी बेऊ हाथो, मांगू छू मदद तारी ओ दादार। करूँ छू ओ दादगर विनंती तुझ पास, एक जरज मारी पूरी कर तू आज। निखालिस जिगरती जोड़ी बेऊ हाथो, मांगू छू मदद तारी ओ दादार।
Good evening, friends. Good evening to friends in India. Good morning to friends in the US, and good afternoon to those in England and Europe. Welcome to all of you. Parzor is at the Commission for the Status of Women in New York, live right now. And we thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to share something about our culture and tradition with you. Unlike the other sessions, which have been mainly about problems, we are here to offer some solutions to the issues of women from a culture which is very, very ancient. This culture has lived actually through its women and its men. Therefore, let me remind you that while I am going to be emphasizing, along with Karishma and Mahtab, the status of our women and the situation of our culture and religion about the feminine, it is a religion of equality and dignity to all creation. And therefore, while we will stress women, there is no gainsaying that there is definitely equality and dignity for man, woman, plant, animal, every part of life. Parzor Foundation was initiated by UNESCO as the Parzor Project 20 years ago. It has grown mainly thanks to the help we have received from the Government of India. I have to thank the Government of India, Ministry of Minority Affairs, for the tremendous support they have given us to create the Everlasting Flame International Program, the largest ever gathering of the Zoroastrians anywhere in the world for 3 months in 2016. And more importantly, for the ongoing Geoparsi program, which is actually helping bring back our numbers. Uh, there is a lot to discuss. There is a long way to go. We invite you to work with us to understand a Bronze Age culture which has meaning and methods for our postmodern world. We will take questions after the session. I now introduce you to my presenters, Mahtab from Spain and Karishma from London. Mahtab.
Hello, all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you've had a good day and thank you for joining us. My name is Mahtab Irani and I am digital editor for Parzor projects. I am from India, but I'm based in Barcelona. I come from a long line of strong Irani women and that have passed down a rich heritage to my sister and myself. And I'm very lucky for that. And today I'm here to share in the form of stories, songs, images, a lot of what this Bronze Age Zoroastrian tradition offers. So thank you and look forward to a great session with you all. Karishma, please.
Hama Zor, Hama Ashobad, everybody. May we all be stronger together. I'm a neuroscientist and an environmental scientist. And in Asho Zarathustra, I see the great neurocognitive thought leader whose guidance is to develop a good mind, to care for all creation, and work together for the good of all. And I value all the efforts to conserve this knowledge and the traditions that go with it, especially the work of Parzor, which focuses on a transgenerational approach. Delighted that you're all with us today. Over to you, Dr. Cama.
Thank you. As we turn to the first slide, it is going to explain the Zoroastrian religion very briefly. Born in the cold deserts of Central Asia, this is a genuine photograph from the air. You can see the barren, cold mountains, and that is why Zarathustra, born around 1600 BC, according to my teacher, Professor Mary Boyce, emphasized the care for creation, greenery, water, plant, and this earth itself. Zarathustra, there are many legends about him. He's called Zoroaster by the Greeks. He is the only child, according to Pliny, and of course, according to our traditions, who laughed when he was born because he was delighted to come to the spenta or bounteous earth. He gained a revelation of Ahura Mazda, the one true God of light and wisdom, on a spring morning as he emerged from a dip in the river Daitya. He is the only prophet of a known religion to have been born into a priestly family. There are many legends of animal helpers in his childhood who protected him from evil forces, a wolf mother who suckled him, a cattle who stood over him. But basically, what we have left are only his 5 gathas or songs of wisdom. The gathas speak of the good mind and human choice. That is why this is a religion and a culture which emphasizes each one of us as having responsibility and care for not only creation, but for ourselves. This is also about taking responsibility for our actions. And I will explain this as we go along. Uh, the Gathas are the songs of Zarathustra, and here I am going to request Karishma to speak and recite a little prayer which explains the importance of both men and women. Karishma.
In the Zoroastrian doctrine, the Zarathushti Dayana, both men and women are mentioned and honored. One such prayer is the Yenge Hatam. Yenge Hatam Atyasne Paiti Vango Mazda Wahoro Vaita Shatacha Yonghamcha Tascha Taoscha Yazamaide.
Thank you, Karishma.
In this
As you
prayer,
can
which
see,
features several times in different longer prayers or as a standalone prayer, we pray, among the living ones, we venerate those men and women whom Aura Mazda has known to be better in their actions of veneration on account of their righteousness. I'm very grateful to my teachers, Mabed Mehraban Firuzgari and Ervad Dr. Ramyar Karanjia for their patient teaching.
thank you, Karishma. That was beautiful. So it is men and women, both we do adore, whose very act, every act of worship is alive. The idea of action with Asha, the eternal law of life, is very important. Unity and interdependence is not just important, it is the Menok and the Getik, the spiritual and physical worlds are inter-assimilated in our philosophy. It is a very modern psychology where the mind influences the body. This beautiful stained glass from the Calcutta Agyari and the little Char Dishanu Namaskar prayer tells you about the reverence we have for all creation, the entire creation, the pure winds, the stars, the moon, the sun. I bow to them all. We venerate creation. And another very important idea for you to remember when you see the stained glass is that we have no image of Aura Mazda. Aura Mazda is white light. And when you think of, this is the explanation we give to children, when you think of the seven Amesha Spentas who surround Aura Mazda, the guardians of creation, the seven colors of the rainbow are, we're reminded of the seven colors of the rainbow, which coming together create white light. So I turn to a little bit about our rituals. This is the Jashan. It is of Thanksgiving. It is a community prayer where the community in Hamazori prays along with the priests and shares in not only the prayer, but also the ritual offering of fruits and malido and some cakes of wheat. The other very important ritual, filmed for the first time professionally and photographed professionally by Parzor almost 2 decades ago, is the Yashna ceremony. We got special permission to film it in the Dadar Madrasa. It is very important and I'd like to explain it very briefly. Early morning, the priests collect water from a well. They bring this water, and with it, they bring pomegranate leaves, they bring date palm leaves, they bring milk from a goat, and every part of creation comes together in front of fire. And with the water, the 72 chapters of the Yashna are prayed. And finally, as dawn breaks, this water, now consecrated and purified, is sipped by the priests to strengthen themselves and then taken ritually back to the well and poured in to strengthen creation to face each day. For us, strengthening creation to fight negativity and doubt is extremely important. And that is why in the corner you will see the little bit of ephedera, or what we call home, the liquid home, which is supposed to be strengthening and which comes, of course, from Central Asia. It is the ephedera plant. So we work together with creation to fight negativity and to make this world bounteous and strong. The next slide is the feminine earth itself. Spenta, or bounteous, are mighty, devotion. She is the Amesha Spenta, representing this earth. And just like the earth is a mother, she cares for us all. Traditionally, before we step onto her early morning, we recite a small prayer, And we were always told as children that pick up your feet and walk gracefully. After all, you are stepping on Spenta Almighty. We recite a small Ashem Vahu prayer before we plant a seed in the soil. And in fact, the postmodern ecofeminist movement is very close to Zoroastrian theology. A line from the Vendidad, which I always remember and I quote, is, I quote now, "He who sows corn sows righteousness." So to act to make the earth fruitful is a religious duty. Dirt and pollution, which is physical, reflects a mental unconcern about this spenta beautiful earth. Today, we are paying the price with climate change, forest fires, air so polluted we needed masks even before COVID. The other Yazad or the Yazata who is also feminine is Ava Yazad, a high-breasted, wearing a diadem of stars with strong arms. This beautiful figure represents water, water which was so important in the cold deserts of Central Asia. She is also called Anahita, the pure goddess, Ardvisur Anahita, the pure goddess of the living waters. Her grottos are normally near sources of water in a dry land in Iran, and she became, in Sasanian times, a protector of kings and queens. The force of purity and healing for particularly women and in childbirth, we pray the Ava Yasht to get her blessings. As children, a little oral tradition which we followed was whenever we crossed water, we by train or by car, we were always given a fresh flower to offer to Ava Yazad Anahita in thanksgiving for her blessings. Next slide, please. After the Battle of Nihavand in 642 AD, when the Sasanian Empire fell, the royal family scattered into various areas of Iran. And again, the forces of water and earth were protective. This grotto, Pires Sabz or Pire Chak, is one of the most popular sites of pilgrimage in Iran for all Iranians. The story is again about a woman, the little princess Nikabano, who, exhausted and tired, crossed the desert to try and escape from the enemies who were chasing her. As she entered near a mountain, in desperation, she flung her maple staff with which she was crossing the desert at the mountain, and the mountain opened up and took her in to safety. A maple tree still grows there, and the tears of Nikabano drip down in this shrine, and the sound they make, chak chak, is supposed to be from her tears and from the water and earth which protected her. The whole basis of all these myths is the importance of creation and how nature protects those with faith. I now turn to the life cycle rituals. These are primarily drawn from Parsi tradition, but of course also include very important Zatushti tradition. Silver is pure and shining and therefore regarded as sacred in our tradition. At childbirth, a little silver ink pot is placed with red ink in it and a white piece of paper. On the sixth night, Vaumana, the Amesha Spenta of the good mind, comes to write the child's future. This is just a little story. And from the Gujarati tradition, perhaps we have got the best new ceremony for this little baby who is sitting over here. She's sitting on sweet cakes. And this is the first time she is sitting up, and that is why it is celebrated. While these are just little traditions, the most important core tradition of the Zoroastrians is the Navjot or the new birth. The Navjot is when we are initiated into the religion. Both boys and girls are initiated. And this is the white sadra, sudre, the righteous path, with which we live our lives. At the center of the sadra, the white garment, as you can see in this little girl sadra, you have the Gireban or the Kisse Kerfa, the pocket of good deeds, which we fill with one good deed towards man or fellow creation every day, always remembering that our good deeds are nothing compared to the white vastness of Aura Mazda's goodness. We tie the kasti, woven out of 72 threads, signifying the yashna, at the Navjot for the first time, and we tie the knot of the kasti, it's a reef knot, at the word Shotenanam. Shotenanam means to act. So it is the sacred armor of the Zoroastrian. We become soldiers of truth, warriors of truth, fighting injustice, fighting pollution, fighting evil. The Sadra and the Kasti remain with us throughout our lives, and at death, this is the only thing that accompanies us into the other world. Our bodies are wrapped in the Sadra and Kasti and are left for the next stage. Next slide, please. The marriage is slightly different in Iran and in India. In India, yes, we wear white for purity, as you saw at the Navjot. We wear red and we have the vermilion dot on our foreheads, following perhaps Indian traditions. We wear white for purity. In Iran, we wear green, the makna, again for signifying life and faith. The sugar cones which you see over here are in the Iranian tradition and have been adapted into the sais along with the cloth brocade sofre of the Iranian circle of the Iranian tradition into what we call the Parsi sais. The Parsi sais became richer and richer as the community grew in wealth. Essentially, the circle signifies the unity of the family. We have a rose water holder. We have a little lamp, oil lamp or a divo. We have, of course, the vermilion holder over here, the piga. And we have, very importantly, the same sugar cone as a hollow silver paro or suparo, which is filled with sweets. And it is basically the same as the sugar cone. May your life be full of happiness and sweetness. Sorrow is inevitable. May it be very little. As you climb up this mountain of life, count your blessings and may the sorrow escape from the top. This is an important moment when we come together, and Prophet Zarathustra recited his last gatha, the Vaishto Ishti Gatha, for his daughter's wedding. I will ask Karishma to recite it in the original Avestan for you.
On the occasion of the wedding of his daughter Pauruchista, Ashok Zarathustra sang the following lines, which appear in the fifth Gatha, the Vahishtavish Gatha, in stanza 5. Sakveni vasyam nabhyo kainibhyo mraumi shmai bhyacha vedim no nenchai mazdazdum Vaidodum de nabish abhyasta ahum ye vangeush manango ashave anyo ainim vivangatu tat zihoi hushenim anghat. According to Erva Dr. Ramya Karanjia, my mentor and guide, these lines translate as, O ye bride and bridegroom who are about to marry, bear in mind the motivational words that I speak, which are the words of the wise who follow the religion. Strive to secure the life of good thoughts. With righteousness, keep on loving each other, so that you may both indeed Have a happy family life.
Thank you so much, Karishma. As we turn to the last part of the life cycle, uh, we look at the traditional forms of burial, which was air burial. And this was something which was very common in the cold deserts of Central Asia. The Buddhists also followed it. uh, in a place where the earth is cold and hard and wood is scarce and valuable, it was an environmentally friendly thing to do. And of course, religiously, it is supposed to be your last good deed in a religion of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. It's your last good deed to give your body to carrion birds of prey. This is a manuscript inked version of the Dakma, with the outer lines for men, the second line for women, and the third for children. Environmentally, it's a stone structure, and environmentally, the once the bones have been picked clean, they fall into a lime based pit, and lime is poured into it so that the earth or spenta armaiti does not get polluted. Since many years, the Iranians have shifted to the aramga or place of rest. And so, in other parts of India, except where there are dakmas, we too follow the aramga system. However, it is not the body that is important in Zoroastrianism once the spirit has left it. Our ruwan or our spirit crosses, is judged at the Chinvat pool or the bridge of judgment. We are judged by what acts we have done or left undone in this world. And if we have acted wisely and done our best, the pool or the bridge expands to 8 furlongs in width, and the soul crosses over into a beautiful heaven of flowers, sweet scented breezes, and song, Garotman. If unfortunately we have not done our best, the bridge narrows to a razor's edge, and the soul has to sit in suffering, again very psychological, even though the souls of the wicked are as close as hair on the head, they feel I am alone. This is the psychology of this religion, but at the end, it is positive, because the frasho kareti, or the renovation of this world, is the making perfect of all life. It is said that the mountains will dissolve, and a hot molten lava will flow across the earth, which to the good soul will seem like warm milk, but will be a searing purge from those who have not done their good deeds in life. And at the end, time will stand still, because we have a linear, not a circular vision of life and of creation. And time will stand still, and families will meet again. One Western critic has laughingly said it sounds like a very noisy family union. And I think a good family reunion is something all of us Parsis love, with food and laughter. So I think it's a very good thing. Here you see the annual prayers for the dead, the Mukhtar or the Farvandigan, where the souls visit us for the 10 days. Earlier it was 18 days, it was shortened to 10 days some decades ago. We perform the Muktars supposedly for 30 years, after which the individual Ruwan joins the spirits or the Fravashis. This is from the Delhi Dare Meher, and I have to tell you, the shining silver, the lovely scent of flowers, fresh flowers every day, and the incense is really a time of such beauty. One realizes how the Menok and the Getik, the spiritual and the physical, come together. Professor Boyce used to always say that she wondered how the Zatushtis of Yazd celebrated and enjoyed the time of mourning. I remember as children, we had fresh clothes, new clothes for every day of the Muktars, because it is a time when the spirits come to earth, they want to see their families happy. And that is why they return satisfied that the people they have left behind whom they loved are happy. And we have to smile and not mourn for them. Next slide, please. With this, we come to the end of the life cycle, a very, very brief introduction, I'm afraid, and we come to history. The Persian Empire spread from Europe into China. Three empires, the Achaemenian, the Parthian, and the Sasanian, were the first global empires the world has ever seen. It is very important to emphasize the word global empire in a time when we talk so loosely of globalization, because the Achaemenians in particular did not impose their views or their religion on anyone else. This was unlike other conquerors. The Cyrus Cylinder, which is seen over here, a replica of it stayed for many years in the New York UN building as the first Bill of Human Rights. It's a tiny clay tablet, actually at the British Museum, and it was found in the walls of Babylon. The Jews spent many years of exile in the Achaemenian world of Persia. And Cyrus helped rebuild the temple. Darius completed it, which is why Cyrus is the only non-Jew, the only Gentile to be called the Lord's anointed in the Old Testament, Isaiah 45:1. The trade with the Parthians with China across the silk, what became the Silk Route, brought the secret of silk from China through a very interesting story, which I can't tell you, it's too long. It brought the secret of silk to Iran, and Iran then introduced silk to the rest of the world. Here is a very dear friend, the late Dr. Mehrbanu Bakhtiari, medical doctor and community leader of Iran, specially dressed for Parzor in the traditional costume and with this beautiful piece of jewelry which contains a mirror and a surma or kohl holder for decorating your eyes, for putting kohl on your eyes. These young women are dressed in the Kushbakt colors of red and green. They hold little bags in their hand, but don't let appearances fool you. They are brilliant mathematicians, lawyers, doctors, architects, singers. They have done everything any man can do, and they continue to do it while keeping traditions alive. We came to India after the Battle of Nihawand. For 100 years. It is said that the Zoroastrians fled further and further into the desert and finally left for India, which they knew through trade. The story of the sugar in the milk has been sung in Geet and Garba, and danced in Garbas and sung in Geet. Geet means song, for many, many centuries. The idea is when the Iranians came on their boats, these strange tall men with their weapons entered India, first in Dwi and then the main coast at Sanjan. The Raja of Sanjan sent a bowl full of milk, signifying that his land was full and could not accommodate them. The priest poured a handful of sugar and stirred it in, signifying that, like the sugar in the milk, we, the people from Persia, the Parsis, would live in India and sweeten and strengthen the land. There were certain elements of acculturation which the Raja expected. One was to lay down our weapons. The second was to wear the sari. The third was to adopt Gujarati as our language. And of course, a strange little request to hold our weddings at night. It shows that they were happy to have us, but we were refugees. We had to keep under the radar. And that is why we have never proselytized in India. Till today, our weapons are laid down. And of course, this is a replica during the everlasting flame. But in every Agyari, Dare Meher, and Atash Beram, the weapons we promised Jadi Rana to lay down are in our fire temples, protecting the Iran Shah. That was the name we gave our sacred fire once it was re-established in India. We no longer had a Shah, a physical king, so we adopted a spiritual king, the Iran Shah. Please note that this is the main fire temple of the Parsis in India, but it looks like a house. That is done on purpose because we had to protect ourselves. There were other raids, there were other problems. The fire had to travel many times. It had to be hidden in the caves in Barot Mountains. And the deliberate creation of a building that doesn't look too grand is a way of safety. And this is why the fire temples are always inside the Parsi Ward, and the oldest fire temples have very, very thick doors and protect the fire. In India, as time went on, Parsis became builders of modern India. I have hundreds of examples to choose from. I've taken very few. And these women represent core beliefs in human rights, in education, and in the importance of health and medicine. Madame Bikaiji Cama, who unfurled the first Indian flag at Stuttgart in 1907, Lady Sakarbai Pitit, whose Pitit Hospital and whose Sakarbai Pitit Animal Hospital still provides human service to animals across India. And Nawajbai Tata, who created this girls' school in 1858, just after the Indian Mutiny, and it still runs in Navsari, serving serving girls from all religions and all faiths. This is a favorite of mine. We know of Lady Meherbai Tata, many of us, through the great Jubilee diamond which she owned, which was twice as large as the Kohinoor. But actually, she was the international face of the modern Indian women's movement. She was very, very important in the passing of the Child Marriage Restraint Act. Here she is sitting in the middle of all these ladies at an international conference. Uh, After her death at a very young age of leukemia, she had asked for all her jewels with the Jubilee diamond to be sold to create the largest cancer hospital we now have in Asia, the Tata Memorial Center. It is now also a research center. And I would like you to hear a little more about Meherbai Tata. Thank you, Mahtab. Uh, Again, how could I choose? Mithuben Pitit, she's standing behind Mahatma Gandhi as he picks up salt to express the freedom of the Indian people from the salt tax, which was unfairly levied on them. Cornelia Sorabji, who was the first woman to read law at Oxford and practiced her law to protect women in India, especially the women in the Zanana who were oppressed. Dr. Homai Dastoor, who is the founding principal of my own college. By the way, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm very sorry. But I teach at Delhi University. I have studied at Lady Shri Ram College. It is, I believe, of course, that India's best college for women and the finest liberal arts college actually across India. The founder principal was a Parsi. Homai Vyarewala, whom Parzor rediscovered, who had completely documented the entire freedom movement and who was lost and forgotten in Baroda when we found her. Please do read our book about her. It is something of a fabulous story. Perin Mistry, India's first qualified architect. There were so many firsts and so many builders in the women of the Parsi community in modern India. The next slide will tell you about a few more. Uh, Sorry, that's the slide after this. This is a personal slide which I have added in. It shows people from both sides of my family. This is Mehrbanu Vakil, who then became Mehrbanu Shroff and helped create the first charity eye hospital in Delhi, the Dr. Shroff's Charity Eye Hospital, which is over a century old. At the bottom is Parzor Vakil, who then became a very important lawyer and in the Bombay High Court and fought for many causes. This was official education, but I think the Parsis have always had an unofficial, informal way of educating themselves. And this pretty young girl is my grandmother, Dolmai Bilimoria. She was called Doll, though her name was Hirabai, because she was so pretty. And you can see that. Her beard has fallen off, whether deliberately or not, I don't know. And this is a little village, Bilimora. And this is 1925-30, and they're enacting Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is the way in which we were educated, both from the East and from the West, and I think it has helped us in the long run. Next slide, please. These are girl guides preparing for service, and these are some remarkable photographs by Homai Vyarewala of Parsi women who trained as air raid wardens and for first aid and medical services in the World War. Next slide, please. The great exhibition of 1851 took Parsi handicrafts, embroidery, marquetry, and a lot of other objects to the Crystal Palace exhibition in London. After that, Parsi objects became very popular, as you can see from this postcard of a Parsi lady's stall. This watercolor painting by M.V. Durandar is one of my favorites. He studied and taught at the J.J. School of Arts, Jamshedji Jijiboy School of Arts, which is India's most prestigious art school. I love this figure, and she represents to me everything that I see even today among the Parsis. The short hair, the sadra showing, yes, a Western blouse, very practical shoes, and the sari very high up, waiting for the floods, as we laugh and say, because she wanted to be free and walk freely. And I think this represents the freedom which we all cherish, the freedom to live our lives as we choose. I now turn to how the role of women is so important in preserving culture. Will you play the song first, please, Mahtab? This is a Monajat by Roshan Dandiwala of Delhi, now settled in the USA. Okay, don't worry, I'll continue till you get it right, okay? Yeah.
करूं छू दास कर विनंती तुझ पास एक अजरज मारी पूरी कर तू आज निखाले जिगरती जोड़ी बेहू हाथों मांगू छू मदद तारी ओ दादा मारी मुश्किली आसान तू कर जिन दुखों थी बचावानो एहसान तू कर.
Mari mushkili asan tu karaje. Take away my difficulties. We learned these songs through osmosis in the warm enfolds of a joint family. All these pictures which you see are taken from Parzor's oral recordings across India over the last 20 years. Uh, People have opened their homes, have shared their greatest treasures with us, and we are very grateful to them. Uh, the idea of Mushkil Asan to Karaje is linked with the little prayer I have finished this evening, the Friday Mushkil Asan prayer. Again, it's about a daughter who wanted nice things to eat, and a story about how her father, the woodcutter, the poor woodcutter Mishkin, tried, failed, tried, and of course, about a beautiful simurg, the phoenix of the Iranian tradition, which then solved all the difficulties. It's a recitation we do every Friday with the simplest offering of gram or chana, which even the poorest can afford. This is a recording from Hyderabad. This is a picture from Surat. The whole idea of Mushkil Asan and all the prayers of the family are about faith and belief, in also about getting second chances. There is so much work to be done because in every home you go to, there is one more story to record, and we really need everybody's help. The traditions of reverence to water can be seen from the seal of the third millennium BC with fish from Susa, which came to the Everlasting Flame exhibition from the Tehran National Museum. This is the Parsi Gate at Bombay, where on Ava Maino Ava Roj, the birthday of water, Parsis come to do their kasti, offer flowers to the Ava Yazad, the protector of women and the protector of life. This is a beautiful fish gara, probably an engagement gara. It has every type of aquatic life on it and has been recorded by the generosity of its owner, Zenobia Jamas Pasa of Bombay. Fish decorate our chalk designs outside every Parsi's home across the world. Next slide, please. The reverence to water has led us to a discovery of an amazing system of water harvesting, the Taka systems of Bharuch. This is a photographs, and of course we have a film on this, and I've written widely about water harvesting. This is a simple system of rainwater harvesting. Remember, the Persians were the great people who understood water and built the great qanats. Darius, Emperor Darius of the Achaemenians, the largest statue of him is him dressed as an Egyptian pharaoh because he brought water to Egypt, to the dry parts of Egypt, away from the Nile. The rooftop rainwater harvesting follows a simple system which is based again on oral traditions of taste and smell. And it stores this particular taka is the largest we have recorded. It is built it's built under the house. It keeps the house cool. It provides pure drinking water. We've had it analyzed scientifically. It's purer than mineral water. The entire taka, the pressure of the water is prevented from making the taka collapse by a system of a curved roof and skinches. And it is a very remarkable system, which we hope someday we can have replicated, at least in Zoroastrian homes and other homes across the world. No bacterial growth ever happens here because direct sunlight never enters the taka. There are 7 filters. There are 7 filters to purify, the last one being muslin cloth of the sadra, which you see put just over the collection point of the water. So these are ecological traditions. Another little ecological tradition is lime, used in Central Asia and in Iran to keep away insects, adapted by the Parsis very cleverly to mingle with the rangoli of the Gujarat coast. And again, we like to make things easy for ourselves and adapt. So we make little recycled boxes perforated with stencils to create designs. And as you can see, the fish, the pomegranate, the tree of life, and the rooster are perennial designs in our chalk as in our life. Animal helper stories abound in the Parsi tradition. The rooster of Sarosh, who drives away the darkness of the night and drives away evil. The Kutrano book or morsel for the dog, which is followed in years, which was followed in years and was followed in Navsari. I think outside most Parsi homes in Delhi, you will see a bowl of water, and we do look after our dogs very well, reflecting them even in our careful hand embroidery. This is a reward of putting aside your food before you eat it. The first morsel is for the dog, who was your protector and companion on the steppes of Central Asia. The Carolia or spider design links up with a little story about the time when we were running away, we were escaping from persecution, and we were being chased by soldiers. There are many versions of it, I'm giving you one. Uh, we were being chased by soldiers. We saw some water, we means the Zoroastrians. We saw a well, we rushed towards it, drank the water, and then realized there was approaching soldiers. We quickly were led by a spider to hide inside the well, and this tiny spider wove its web so thickly across the top of the well. The soldiers came, looked inside, saw it was all covered, and walked away. And that is why, till today, the rooster, the carolia, and the dog are protective emblems in our embroidery. And there's some fabulous embroideries which the Parsis do. The healing traditions of the Parsis need to be studied much further. We have done considerable research, and here you can see a lady hardwide. We were the Magi, known, of course, as those who visited the baby Christ, but known in the East as the healers or the white-robed healers of the East of the Asian tradition. They are mentioned in Sanskrit texts. The Buddha of healing, the Jivika, is blue because of the Khorasanian turquoise. Pulse healing, which we think is Tibetan, actually was taught to the Tibetans by doctors from the Sasanian court who settled in Tibet. And this Zungzang dictionary or map of the world contains this Bupo map, which has been studied carefully by us with Professor Lokesh Chandra. At the center, with the cosmic mountain, is Parsogarde or Parsegard, which was regarded by the Tibetans in that time as the center of the earth. It was a very important place. And I quote from one of the texts of Tibet. I'm quoting, "In our histories of medicine, the Magi's are doctors. They protect people from disease." A lot more work is needed in this field, and a lot of the tankas of Tibet have many of the medicinal herbs which we use. And amazingly, the Hardwaite tradition also uses certain ingredients which the Hardwaites very kindly shared with Parzor. These ingredients are not Indian, they come from Central Asia. They use poultices and they heal people. When we recorded this, the price of healing a fracture was the equivalent of 25 cents. So it is something which is done for almost free. Healing traditions, many of you who are watching may remember these gifts of amber which were given to children. Our children did not wear, but we definitely wore these little amber bracelets when we were little girls and babies. Amber prayer beads with 101 beads with which we recite the 101 names of Aura Mazda are very common, and it is believed to have protective and healing properties. I know it definitely changes color when exposed to jaundice. There has been some research started in this. We need a lot more people to continue this research. Next slide, please. Well, the greatest healer for the Zoroastrians and the Parsis is good food. Uh, we enjoy Spenta creation and we love our food. Vividwani is the Indian Mrs. Beaton. This lady, Meherbai Jamshedji Wadia, died before she was 31 years complete. And yet she left behind this wonderful cookbook. The Ratan Tata Institute, the Zoroastrian Ladies Institute are all places where women are empowered through embroidery, through cooking, through baking to lead a dignified life for themselves. And this has helped so many women create independent lives and have an independent livelihood. So one thing I must point out to you, these two institutions, one in Bombay and one in Ahmedabad, served food throughout the lockdown to senior citizens and really had a fantastic positive effect on the community because of their home delivery. They both need greater support and they both have wonderful food and it's very, very reasonable. So do support it. Parsi women and food, the entrepreneurs are numerous. First, let me show you a picture which we photographed in Yazd at a Gambar. And of course, this is a Parsi wedding feast. I want to point out two ladies to you. Bhikkhu Manekshaw, the late Bhikkhu Manekshaw, the first famous cordon bleu chef of India, who fed presidents, prime ministers, kings, and queens, and who has published some fantastic cookbooks which also talk about our culture. In the next generation is Anaita Dhondi, another cordon bleu chef and somebody who has won many international prizes. Niloufar Mawalwala, who has taken Parsi and Iranian food, customs, and traditions across the world with her wonderful cookbooks and her wonderful blogs and Facebook posts. Katie Dalal, archaeologist and food historian, Tanaz Godiwala, whom everybody wants to taste at a wedding feast, Dhan Bagli of Delhi, Kenaz Contractor of Delhi, Kenaz Messman, whose Theobroma chocolates and pastries are now famous across India. She started just a few years ago, and these women have done so much. The Garba of Gujarat was adapted to Parsi songs. Parsi theatre, the Yazdi Karanjia family of Surat, Veera Karanjia here, Yazdi's wife, have collected not lakhs but crores, millions of dollars for things like the Kutch earthquake relief and other things through their concerts. But the most important point I want to raise is our music. The Gathas were songs. And here is Pilu Jinwala playing a pedal harmonium in Bharuch. The pedal harmonium, the dilruba and the tabla were the instruments with which we first sang monajats. Monajats are personal communions with God. You heard a few before the start of this session. We are trying to teach our children this, which we observed and learned by osmosis. I really would like y'all to please restart this wonderful tradition. Other women, Penaz Masani, the great Indian ghazal singer, Farah Gadiali, who sung in England, in Europe, and now at the NCPA in Bombay, is a soprano. Aban Misri, the late tabla player, Mayor Contractor, the late Mayor Contractor, who revived puppetry across India and was a very important figure in Unima. The Patel family, Parzor and the late Ruby Patel with Shernaz, who have done so much for theatre. All of them have done great things for the arts. The traditional crafts which we recorded in Iran and in Navsari are extremely important because these were oral traditions, and Parzor has brought out a book, Threads of Continuity, the craft of Kasti weaving, which tells you about this extremely difficult process of creating out of 72 threads of lamb's wool a complete uh, tube, which then has to be inverted along with very complex tools to create the kasti, the girdle which we wear around our waist, which is our shield and protector, and with which we pray all our lives. Next, please. We turn to the great craft of embroidery. This is a picture, it's a very small picture actually, completely hand embroidered with even little pearls on it. It has been donated to the Parzor archives by Ava Kullar. But Parsi embroidery goes back to Persian roots. It has Iranian roots, it has Chinese influences, it has Indian influences, and finally European influences. It truly is a heritage of humanity. Next slide, please. We have adapted in India to the Zardozi or gold and silver thread embroidery, which we wore as prayer caps in the past. This incredibly hand embroidered border on a sari tells the entire story of creation from the Bundahishan. You have Masha Mashoi, the first man and woman, the tree of seeds, Geu Shurva, who called out for a protector at the beginning of the Gathas, and of course, King Yima or Jamshed. The story goes on and on. It is fabulous. Each home has treasures which we need to record and we need to protect. It's falling apart, by the way. It's on a very thin strip of red velvet. Next slide, please. We started our revival after our research. We researched Parsi embroidery for 5 years in India, in Iran, in the Far East. And after that, we began workshops across India to teach a new generation of all Indians and people from as far away as Canada the art and craft of Parsi embroidery. This is Roshan Rao in Ahmedabad teaching Seva workers in 2006. This is Navsari, this is Hyderabad, this again is Navsari. So we've been reviving Parsi embroidery and we have won some awards for this. And we're very proud to say that one of our people, young men who worked with us, Ashdin, is now an international designer. Parsi embroidery with Parzor crafts is, we are a not-for-profit. Any item you purchase from us, the finances of it go back to support our research. We have won 2 awards of excellence for handicrafts in the UNESCO Award of Excellence, both in 2008 and 2012. Here I want to tell you that every single day of the Parsi calendar, the Zoroastrian calendar in the Bundahishan is dedicated to an angel, and every angel has a flower. This is the water lily of Ava Yazad. This is the lily of Khordad, Hurwatat, health. These are butterflies which signify love in the Chinese tradition. This is the little Carolia or spider. This, of course, is the Simhar whom I've just spoken about, and the tiny white jasmine are the flowers of Vahumana, the good mind. These little dots we call simply and laughingly Kada Papeta, which means onions and potatoes. But may I tell you that bringing around a perfect circle in Parsi embroidery, hand embroidery, is very, very difficult. It's certainly not just onions and potatoes. Next slide, please. When Parsi women sat separately during the time of their monthly periods or their menstrual periods, they had different looms or jantars on which they wove these wonderful torans or glass bead hangings. They again have this usual protective images of roosters from the Iranian tradition, the gule bulbul, the little fravashi. And we have held workshops of these in Delhi. This is a photograph from one of them. But this is a craft which is incredibly difficult technically, because even if you put one tiny glass bead in the wrong place or the wrong colored bead, you have to rip open the entire toran. Please support our toran weavers. We are trying to start a revival project where instead of just glass torans which you hang across your lintel, we can make other objects and give them a better livelihood. Uh, in fashion, from the Kushbat colors of Iran to this fabulous, it's the most perfect bridal shawl I have ever seen. I photographed it in Cambridge. It was purchased by Percy Sykes. And in fact, it is huge. It has a little dog, if you can see. It has little fish. It has the tree of life. It has peacocks. And of course, in the center, it has a magnificent sun. The bridal shawls are disappearing, unfortunately, bought up by museums and are very rarely found now in Iran. Unfortunately, after Professor Ilya Gershwich's wife, Elizabeth, who shared the shawl with me, passed away, the shawl has gone to an embroidery union museum, and I have lost track of it. Here is the young man I am very proud of, Ashdeen, who was my co-writer and of course researcher, the first researcher we had with Parzor, who studied kasti weaving, then moved on to embroidery, is today an international designer. By the way, these cranes are from the Chinese tradition, and the blue and white ceramic is the Chinese blue and white influence in Western costume. His beautiful sari has been just gifted to Kamala Harris from Fezana, and we are grateful to Fezana for encouraging our Ashdeen. I'm very proud of him. This is Parviz Chinoy, our poster girl. It's a photograph of some years ago, but it shows you multiculturalism at its best. She's wearing an Indian sari with Persian design, uh, Chinese stitches, and a necklace from Victorian England of diamonds and platinum. Next slide, please. The multiculturalism continues in our jewelry. This is that same necklace which divides into three bracelets: Humakta, Hukta, Hurvarashta. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. This is a sari pin in the typical ruby and pearl design, which we all love and which we still find in a few Parsi jewelers in Bombay. This is done in the West. This fantastic amethyst which has been carved, the cameo which has been carved. And this is a very interesting field which we need to research. This is Chinese gold, Chinese lockets. All these different multicultural influences create Parsi jewelry. Next slide, please. When we come to religion, I have to thank my mentor in Iran, Mobede Mobedian Mehban Firozgari. He has not only encouraged women to become para-mobeds, para-priests, but he has helped us understand our prayers with his beautiful CDs and has helped spread our religion and our culture across the diaspora, and of course is highly respected in Iran. He's a wonderful person and a dear friend. While officially the Mobediyars have taken part in ceremonies, it is the unofficial women of the household who carry on the tradition of little religious rituals, such as the Adar Parab, or the birthday of fire, which is on Adar Maino, Adar Roj. This is when we decorate our hearth fires, put flowers, and have a little ceremony over there. Next slide, please. I now hand over to Mahtab, who is a good Iranian, originally from Iran, then Bombay, and now in Spain, but has represented us at very important festivals.
Thank you, Dr. Kama. I think your voice needs some rest. Thank you for
Yes.
all of that. So let me take over for a quick bit on Navroz. As Dr. Kama did say right now, I have represented Parzor at several events, presenting the Navroz table, which was declared in 2009 through a Parzor represented for India multi-country candidature to the UN, and which was finally declared 21st March as Navroz, the spring equinox. So if I could just quickly go through, because towards the end of the presentation, we are going to show you a very short film on Navroz itself. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but it's a ritual table that's set up amongst other things. Here you could see a picture of me. I was at the 74th Almond Blossom Festival in Italy, presenting Navroz as an intangible cultural heritage. I did a mix of both Parsi traditions and maintaining some parts of my Iranian traditions that my grandmother passed on to me. You can see the sugar cones that Dr. Kama just spoke about, the sais, and more so, if you can just, if I take you to the next slide, the Navroz table, or what you would call the Hafseen table, traditionally is supposed to be just about 7 ingredients, 7 S's. Of course, it's proliferated, we've added, we've decreased. And I could just very quickly, I would like to share my experience from this year with you. This year, even though it's about COVID, we have suddenly everyone has sprung up online. And I feel like small Facebook groups, they've helped continue this tradition. So women are not just at the house, at the table, setting it up, and that's about it, or passing it on from generations to generations, just like my grandmother and mother passed it on to me. But now women across have come over, and women and men actually come across on Facebook groups. They share their beautiful images of their have seen table. Each of these have a certain significance, all suggesting for a new year, a happy, symbols of health, symbols for fertility, signifying family unity and sweetness in life. But all in all, it is renewing the new year, coming and heralding. Don't forget, as Dr. Kama had said initially, it all springs from, and today Navroz is celebrated by several countries, all springing from their in-depth focus on agricultural and pastoral systems. However, there are other festivals linked to nature. There's Yalda, 21st December, which is winter equinox, all celebrated and observed with red fruits, red flowers, and poetry. There's Sade, that is celebrated 50 days before Navroz, where you celebrate fire and the vanquishing of the winter and heralding of spring eventually. And of course, there's Pentamazgan, which is celebrated on the 24th of February, celebrating love towards mothers, wives, and of course, Mother Earth.
Thank you, Mahtab. Women continue to lead the way from seasonal festivals celebrating life to every aspect of our modern lives. Professor Armaiti Desai, core member of Parzor and the head of our demographic section, Sunitara Porwala, Firoza Godrej, Bachi Karkaria, Zarbano Gifford, Anu Aga, Bapsi Sidwa, Vilu Morawala Patel, who is sequencing the Parsi and Zoroastrian genome and who deserves our help. We'll have to go a little faster, please, Mahtab. The other women here, again, two great friends and helpers in the Geo-Parsi program, Anaita Pandol, and with the Return to Roots, which Arzan Wadia helps us so much with, is Aban Maka Kabraji, my co-chair. Lara Balsara, who's helped us create the Geo-Parsi ads. But today I want to focus on three women who must be better known. a Shernaz engineer who heads the Jame Jamshed as its editor. It's the second oldest newspaper in Asia, and it is for Parsi Zoroastrians. Anaita Subedar, editor of Parsi Times, and Jasmine Driver, who's just about to retire. Many of the pictures you have seen of our fabulous rituals in the fire temples are taken by her. She has been working for Parsiana, taking fabulous photographs of our community and its heritage. Kudos to all these women. Next slide, please. These are women who I happen to be able to call at least four my friends. I want to thank Dolly Dastoor and Fezana for all the support they have given to this program, and Behram Pastakia and Arzan in particular. Roshan Rivetna, dear friend, wonderful editor of the Fezana Journal, and Dolly, who has helped strengthen our religion on the global stage with the Parliament of World Religions. Ava Kullar, also a co-member of Parzor and today president of the Delhi Anjuman, and Armaiti Tirandaz, also a great help in Geo-Parsi and chairperson, proud to say, of the Bombay Parsi Panchayat, the world's oldest Zoroastrian organization. When I talk of the transfer of knowledge from one generation to the other, I want to just quickly bring up one point. Khorshid Dastoor, when we were doing our embroidery workshops, promised me that she would teach me the khako or forbidden stitch. This was just 6 months before our workshops. 1 month before, she lost her eyesight. And I know that many women have lost their eyesight, Parsi women, to this forbidden stitch because they attempted to make complete garas and complete borders with it. I know that her granddaughter, Dr. Delnaz Joki, is an educationist. She didn't learn embroidery. How is it possible for us to advance into the future and yet keep our traditions? I'm not saying damage your eyesight, but I am saying we should not lose such precious knowledge. Next slide, please. I will ask Karishma to take over. Women have been teaching children, and the first prayer we learn as children is the Ashem Vahu.
Ashem Vahu Vahiste Masti Ushtasti Ushtamai Yatashai Vahistai Ashem. In the Ashem Vahu prayer, it says, righteousness for the sake of righteousness is good and brings inner happiness.
Thank you, Karishma. Next slide, please. In conclusion, I have to come to something which is sad. As we were going across India doing our oral recording, we would come across these locked and deserted houses, locked and deserted entire villages. And when we asked people to show us their things, do all this as a cultural project started by UNESCO, they kept asking us, but where are our people? Talk about our people, solve that problem. And that is where we started the demographic module with the help of the government of India. It developed into Geo-Parsi, and it is a holistic scheme which has added 307 babies counting to our population. But more important, it's giving back hope. Geo means live on Parsi. We thank the Ministry of Minority Affairs. We thank the government of India for their massive support from 2013 onwards. The ads have been created by Madison pro bono, next please, and they tell their own story. Next, please. I will quickly talk about one very important thing because we are losing both Dari and Parsi Gujarati. These are both dialects. When I started recording, we were at the definitely endangered stage where children no longer learn the language as a mother tongue. Today, we are at the critically endangered stage. Can we stop before our beautiful languages, which carry our stories, our songs, our jokes, our music, before this goes extinct? Next, please. Thank you, Roshan Rivetna. Today we are less than this now, 57,264 in 2012. And that is why when we count ourselves as 5 in Indonesia and 5 in Korea, 10 in Ireland, we have to take stock of what we are doing to ourselves. Next slide, please. So, thank you, Sunitara Porwala, for allowing us to share this. We used it at the Everlasting Flame. Are we going to be like the man in the Solar Topia iconic photograph looking back with nostalgia? Or are we going to be like this wonderful young woman with her streaked hair jumping forwards positively into the future? I leave you to think about this. Thank you. Karishma?
Now
Mahtab?
that you have heard from Dr. Cama about the beautiful work that has been done and about the beautiful tradition, while you watch a short film just 7 minutes long, which Mahtab is going to introduce, I would like you please to put your questions in the chat box and start this dialogue, this transfer of knowledge, which we can also continue through the email addresses later on, so that we can build together and add our strength to conserve this beautiful tradition.
Thank you, Karishma. I think for the paucity of time, perhaps we could start with the questions and then we can move on to the film. We have just about 13 minutes left now.
Okay, so let's go into the questions. We can always show the movie on YouTube.
Yes.
So we get some very cool. Yes. We are also live on Facebook, and the link will be uploaded onto the YouTube channel. So please continue this dialogue. So now you have heard the importance of research, the importance of taking from the past and giving to the future, which I thank my mother for this transgenerational approach she's taught me. Please teach your children. The concept of faith, belief, integrity and industriousness, the importance of the oral tradition and gratitude, care and culture, progress and advancement for the good of all, healing, traditions, education, equity, choice. So let's take a question now from, very important question. How do we contribute to this effort from our own side? Dr. Cama.
If you have a particular field of expertise, we need hands. We are a very small team. I have a full-time job at Delhi University. This is my voluntary work. We really need young people, and we need young researchers from the community so that they understand. We need young experts from every community so that they can interpret. So whichever your field of work is, please write to us, communicate with us, and let us start a dialogue, as Karishma has suggested, so that we can develop and not lose this fantastic but tiny heritage of humanity.
So Nicole Ross has asked for further details and put the email. We will be saving the chat box, and Mahtab has also put an email address, so please carry on this conversation. Afreed Mystery would like the Taka video, and she has left. Afreed, it will be shared with you, and it will be shared hopefully on the sites. We have a beautiful question from Eva Conley. Has there been an integration of the traditional healing practices with modern medicine?
In Baroda, Dr. Xerxes Bonesetter is actually an allopathic doctor who has come back to practice the Harvard tradition. So At that level, there has been, but we definitely need a large trust like the Wellcome Trust or someone to study the poultices, because I found them fascinating. There are three different types of poultices which take away the pain. And this is the last tradition we have left. We have lost the Ved and the Hakim tradition, which were also Zoroastrian traditions. So there are many medical manuscript books at the Mehdi Library, and I'm sure in other libraries across India and the world. We need to study these books, and we need to get physicians from the allopathic tradition, the Western tradition, to look into these things seriously. Kayumas Patel has been doing some good work in Bombay, but we do need allopathic doctors to take this tradition seriously. You know that they can even diagnose cancer and tuberculosis by touch. This is the training which they have inherited from their tradition.
So while we have a lot of gratitude and commendations in the chat box, which I encourage everyone to read so that you can also contact each other and build what we call a Hamazori, a fellowship across the globe, I will take this question. It's for you, Mahtab. What is the significance of the goldfish on the Haftaseen table, please?
The goldfish represents life on the table. The seven also represents the seven Amesha Spentas, and the goldfish representing life, apart from us, the human. But we're not there on the table. So yes, the goldfish represents life
and I'll point you back, everyone, to the importance of the seven Amesha Spentas that Dr. Cama alluded to. These are the qualities of the greater creative energy that we are supposed to imbibe in order to nurture and care for creation and work for the progress and the good of all, again, in a fellowship. A beautiful question that has come in. Why Parsis marry late or do not marry? From Lakshmi Shah. Dr. Cama.
That's a discussion which would take years. One of the problems which we look at this as is the predicaments of progress. The BBC, we are educated, we are independent, we decide when we'll get married. We have unfortunately no peer pressure, and we are A-type personalities in many ways. That is a problem. Right now we've started, and the BBC has carried this story just this month about how to use the traditional systems of matchmaking across the globe and on the internet to make Zoroastrians meet each other and get married. So this is a major problem which has led to our infertility problems, which has led to our demographic rate of 0.88 births for two married, for a man and a woman. That is, for two people we have a replacement level of 0.88. That is why we are heading towards demographic extinction.
On the note of conservation, there is the question about the conservation project. Mahtab Irani has kindly put the email address for when the project will start. So everyone who's interested in contributing or learning more, please keep in touch and keep the conversation going, please. A very important question has been asked about the tradition. Are the seven Amesha Spentas seen as feminine or masculine? Dr. Cama?
Spenta Armaiti is feminine, the rest are masculine. But the angels like Ava Yazad are feminine. But of the Amesha Spentas, it is Spenta Armaiti who is regarded in quotes as the daughter of Aura Mazda, just as Adar or fire is quote unquote the son of Aura Mazda.
Now we have some important questions again about the Geoparsi or relating to that. What are the solutions to stemming the unfortunate decline of Parsi numbers? Now there are three types of Zoroastrians, the Zartushtis in Iran, the Parsis, and the other diaspora across the world. So different solutions will be needed and we all need to come together for this, but I'll hand over to Dr. Cama, who will give you further details upon which action, good action can be taken.
One thing is related to a question asked earlier. because we marry so late, we are past our peak fertile period. We have 2 or 3 films on our YouTube channel, which I'll direct you to, which are the Geo-Parsi films. Please, if somebody could put this information in. The thing is that uh, we need to reach a better replacement level. Today, with ART, which we are using, that is artificial reproductive techniques, we have a possibility of increasing our numbers, which is what we are doing. But it is a socio-psychological problem. There is a certain nervousness in our community. We are very strong women. We are very well educated women. Our men are also very strong and well educated. Somehow we need to bridge the negativity about marriage, about family responsibility, which is so antithetical to a religion which believes in carrying the says from your home to your married home with your father's name on it to continue a family uniting and growing. So there is a certain degree of social counseling which we need, which we are doing, psychological counseling. We are having workshops. We are having parenting workshops. We have a very small gene pool, and we definitely need new solutions in each part of the world. But the basic issue is we have to get our replacement levels at least up to 2.0.
Jasmine Driver has a very important question. She says, I have been advised to pray the Yast Nirans, looking into a glass of water, and then drink the water after the prayers. This is something that we do in our own home. Would you like to comment upon it, Dr. Cama?
If you do it, please go ahead, because I know about it, but go ahead.
I'm going to refer to Mummy Jaru to do this for me because she's taught me this, and I want to encourage people to teach their children and grandchildren. Mummy, please, would you help us with the importance of drinking water after prayers, after the Yashmirans?
After praying on the water, you mean?
Yes.
When you pray, you're spreading your vibrations all around you. Water has the property of absorbing those vibrations. It's a very great property because you can even heal with that vibration any illness under the sun.
Thank you, Mummy. On that note, I also want to bring up the point that Afreed Mystery and the Fazana project are doing for water. There was a question earlier from somebody who asked about the water project. So Mahtab, please put the details of the water project. Thank you, Nicole Ross, for your questions. Thank you, Shernaz Astavid, for your comment. Lisa Bacon for your question on the Afghashin table. Thank you, Dolly Dasturanti, for your comment on the beautiful presentation. Now there is a question that again refers to the wedding. Why are weddings carried out after dark, Dr. Cama? You have referred to it, but it's a nice story to repeat.
I'll just tell it very briefly because we're running out of time and the platform will disappear. When we came to India, this was one of the promises in the Sanskrit shlokas and in Baman Kekobad's book Kise Sanjan. Basically, it was not to draw attention to a new community, which is why, as I said, we came as refugees. We had to live under the radar. There is one question I'd like to pick up from Lakshmi Shah. What is the reason when a Parsi marries a non-Parsi, he or she is not allowed to the fire temple? This is a misconception. A Parsi who is not converted and not changed his or her religion is allowed in the fire temple. Zoroastrianism is a religion open to all. Certain rules and laws, which we cannot go into at this point of time, have caused a disparity between the status of a Parsi woman who marries out and a Parsi man who marries out. But that is a long discussion, and it is not correct that we are not allowed into the fire temple. As long as we stay Zoroastrian, we are welcome in any fire temple.
There are two important questions, one from Heta Pandit, who gave a lovely Geo-Parsi session some time ago. Is there any example of gender discrimination in the community? And there is another important question on You covered a great deal from our traditions, a little more about our beliefs of Asha, Bahumano, and the struggle between good and evil, free choice with our true conscience, and guidance from each one's Farohar might be very helpful to share. It's the philosophy, beliefs, and values underlying these traditions. Could you speak more? This has come through on Facebook Live. Thank you, Mahtab, for sending it to me and for monitoring Facebook Live and doing all the technology.
Okay, I would love to answer this question. I've got 1 minute left. So I'm going to very briefly talk about this. The Gathas tell us to choose with our good mind the path of righteousness or the path of negativity. And I think that is very important because the Fravashi or our essence is always pure. The Ruan or the soul can be turned this way or that way according to circumstances, but the positivity which we believe in, the spenta creation, the positive forces we have within us help us to choose and lead us on the path of Asha, the path of righteousness. So, do we have any more time, or
We
can I
have
take?
we have a 10-minute buffer. I'd like to take an important question that came up on Facebook. How can people who want to learn more uh, get taught or learn a little more about Zoroastrianism?
Okay, we have a very good collaboration with Google Cultural Institute, and I would like you to visit our Google exhibitions online. From the first one is from Persia to Akbar's court. It's a very simple explanation. We have several of these exhibitions, and we will be doing more. And I will certainly be happy to discuss more about the religion. Please read our books. We are hoping to convert them into ebooks if we can have somebody who will sponsor that for us. And if you write to me directly, or if you can even have a WhatsApp chat with me, I'd be happy to share. So there is a lot to learn about this ancient heritage. It is a heritage of humanity, and I would love to talk more about it. So please do get in touch.
We have an important comment from Lisa Bacon. Thank you, Lisa. It says, thank you. This was a beautiful and moving presentation. And from Kathleen Douglas, I'm interested as a world citizen, although not a Parsi, how to support your efforts. Thank you, Kathleen.
Oh, where do I begin? It's a lot of help we need. Your ideas would be very important. Karishma has stepped in to help us. Malcolm of the ZTFE, the president of ZTFE, he introduced, Malcolm Debu introduced Karishma to us. Look at her, she's helping us today. God bless you, Karishma, and Jaru Auntie. Thank you so much. So this is the way in which if you step forward, we will be very, very grateful. As you can see, we are working across the globe. We're in 3 different countries right now. So in this way, if you can talk to us about what aspect interests you, we'll be very happy to do this. And the other thing is we're hoping to start some online classes, which I'd be very happy if to know what y'all would like to learn about and how we can reach out to you. We will be doing this very shortly. We'll be making an announcement. So do leave your emails with us so that we can get in touch with you as soon as we plan these classes. And we would love to have anyone and everyone, whatever your age be, join us and learn more with us. And of course, you can look at our publications, you can look at our GCI, you can look at the Parzor YouTube channel to learn more. And we definitely need more writers. We need people to run our Instagrams. We need people to do so much. I don't know where to start. We are a small team and it's difficult. So we
Thank you very much, Dr. Cama. Thank you, Mahtab, for your comments and clarification. Do you want to play the video now? Is there time for that now? Or shall we take a couple more comments?
7 minutes. It's
We
7
could-
minutes.
It's an 8, yes, but we have 4
Okay.
minutes left. So
Okay, in that
unfortunately,
case, we'll focus.
Let's
Focus on building the Hamazori then.
Yes.
So Arzan Sam Wadia says, we love Ashdeen at Fazana too, and look forward to his continued involvement with us in the years to come. He is simply brilliant. Now, this actually brings up an important point. as people talk to people and support each other, the fellowship grows. For example, as I've learned from Mabed Meherban Firuzgari, I have learned from him more about Dr. Shernaz Cama's work. Dr. Cama, your comment?
It is Hamazori. It is a global Hamazori. Hamazori means to literally come together. So I think each one of us can learn from each other. I would love to share our work on water with Afreed, and I would love to know what she has been doing. Similarly, with plants, with the genetic project, these are different areas where we need people who have expertise to work with us. There is a lot in Zoroastrianism on ecology, and a lot which needs to be learned by the world as well as by scientists from a very old tradition which has managed to bring the Kannats back to Afghanistan and re-fertilize a very dry place. In fact, the IUCN has brought back the Kannats system of the Zoroastrians into Afghanistan and really helped horticulture over there and fruit trees and fruit growing. Uh, Mahtab, there's a question. Yeah, you've given the YouTube link.
So there are people from all over the world here today. There's a lady from Nigeria who says, greetings to all, Fatima. And Simin Bakhtiar says, thank you for an informative and loving presentation. Loving presentation. That's a very important tradition to have devotion. And we have Mahtab and Shernaz Cama who have absolute devotion to this project. Now, what I'd like to ask Dr. Cama to do now is to maybe ask what she wants of the world in the sense of an international scholastic and research contribution to the Parzor project.
I would like you all to visit our website, the new website, as soon as it's up in the next week. Choose the area which you would be interested in working on and write to us on the website or write to us individually. This is important. Secondly, please do not, I'm talking to the Zoroastrians in Iran, in the diaspora, and in India. Please do not throw away your embroidery, your sadras, your lace, your crochet, your grandmother's books. Please do not throw them away. They are invaluable. We are trying to digitize, and obviously the biggest thing we lack is funding. So we do need a fundraiser. We do want to digitize, and we freely share all our information. We have shared with the world, we have shared our own writings, we have shared even our handwritten notes to the world, because with the Fulbright project, with Brandenburg University, there are different universities which are already interlinked with Parzor, and their students come and work with us. So I would like to encourage these young people to come and work with us. And on the other hand, I would like some fundraisers to help us raise funding for digitizing and for one very, very important book, which is the Parsi, the Zoroastrian embroidery book. That will need a lot of work, a lot of hands, and a lot of knowledge. We are working with the Textile Research Center at Leiden. They were very impressed with Zoroastrian embroidery. So I would like young researchers to come out and work with us for the embroidery book, and of course for the digital project, and anything which you all are interested in. This community has done lots in its 3,000 year plus history. So whatever you're interested in, we would be happy if you would share that with us.
This is a very important point Dr. Cama has brought out, and she called it, in her own words, the heritage of humanity. So if one looks at the various philanthropic acts which are embedded in what's called the Yatha Ahu Vairya prayer, it's very important to share with those who need. That's the very last line, to take good action, Shyotananam, as she referred to, and then share with all who need. And all Zoroastrian philanthropic events and efforts are for all. And equally, as she's just said, the research, the scholastic efforts of the world, please, from wherever you are, whatever your background, if you can do something to contribute, please build the strength.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Karishma. Thank you, Jaru Auntie. Thank you, Mahtab. God bless you. I've been waking you up at very odd hours, I know. Thank you. And Karishma, you haven't been sleeping at all. Thank you so much, all you wonderful people who have sat through this presentation, who have made such kind comments, and who have offered contacts. Thank you. God bless you. And the whole presentation will be available on our YouTube channel. Please stay in touch. Ushtate, happiness be with you. Thank
Please
you.
stay on, Mahtab. Please put all the emails so people can take a screenshot. Just put everything into the last section so that people don't have to scroll up and down. Thank you all for being with us. Mahtab will also put our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. Spread the word, please, with everyone.
And by the way, I'd love to share the Monajats with you on any way possible so that people can learn to sing these across the world. They're beautiful little songs.
Absolutely. That was a very nice question. What is a monajat? Mummy, can you possibly sing a line from a monajat live for us? You'll have an example of what a monajat is, which were played earlier. Sing it again quickly.
माने बचाओ जिन आबरू ने इज्जती मन दीपा करूं छू दादगर विनंती तुझ पास एक जरज मारी पूरी कर तू आज नती जो तो लाखों हजारों मोहब्बत नती जो तो मांगू छू
माता पिता साथे संग मिलो प्यार.
How lovely. Thank you,
Thank you
Auntie.
all for, please share. And if anybody around the world has any recordings, has any words of the old stories, the Bhakta school children have learned a lot. My mother was in Bhakta school. They have actually learned in school.
In Panchgani.
I'll put my email address down as well if anybody wants to contact me.
And Mahtab, if you could put yours, the Parzor.
It's really important to share.
We used to have 400 songs, prayer songs.
A monajat actually is a person.
So there is a lot out there. If we all share it, it will become this rich heritage. Dr. Cama, anything you'd like to finish with, please?
No, nothing. Thank you very much. Please be in touch.
Your voice is muted. I can't hear you.
Please be in touch with us. And we would be happy to share the entire set of songs which we have recorded from different parts of India and across the Parsi diaspora. So I'm sure there are many, many more. So let us get them together and make something which we can all understand and sing and realize how much vibrations help to make us and keep us happy. Thank you. God bless you all. And be in touch, please.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.